Yeah, so I'm Bernadette Melnyk, like Lance said, and I have the privilege of being Ohio State's first Chief Wellness Officer. I'm also Dean of the College of Nursing here. Really excited about what we are doing here at Ohio State that is very different from other universities throughout the country because we're tackling health and wellness from a very comprehensive, integrative approach. Most universities tackle wellness through benefits, through HR, incentivizing people to complete the PMHNP. Then you have student life, who does student wellness, but here at Ohio State, we are taking this comprehensive approach to promoting health and wellness for our faculty, staff, and students. So I'm really excited about the demo today. It's great you all could be with us. I attended Steve DeBoer from Exercise and Wellness did a Wellness Wednesday lunch and learn for us just a couple of weeks ago. And he said, honestly, people are making tons of money off of selling bad diets and books and all this kind of stuff. And the answer is simple to being healthy. Put your fork down a little more and walk out the door. Walk more. Really, when you think about that. So I'm going to charge all of you today. We're going to learn about some very healthy recipes, but I'm going to charge each and every one of you with deciding in the next 90 days what one small little thing can you do to change in a healthier way. Whether it's take the steps instead of the elevator, get up and move every 15 minutes, but let's all commit to making one healthy lifestyle change because our goal is to be the healthiest university, not only in the country, but in the globe, because we think really, really big. And we also believe we can do it. So Lance, we have to start with OH. That was saggy energy. OH. Okay, that's us. And I'm going to turn it over to our expert chef.
Okay, so like Bern was saying, we're going to do some, if you can't hear me at any point, the mic cuts out, or just let me know, maybe raise your hand up. I'll try to be as loud as I can. My name's Lance Melnyk. I'm the instructor here, culinary training instructor. I teach them hospitality management classes, allergen training, Serve Safe, which is a food safety handling for all the people that work here, managers and students. So we're going to start off with, like you said, some healthy recipes. You can make so many things healthy. They don't have to be unhealthy. But like Bern said, moderation. You still need to have fats in your diet. You still need to have all of the micro and macronutrients that you need to have. So we're going to make a veggie black bean burger. We're going to have avocados and a fresh pico de gallo, which is like a salsa on that on a little whole wheat slider bun. The best thing about all this is all the things we're making up here, when we finish, we'll have a whole table up in the back. You guys will be able to sample everything we're making, okay? So that's even better. We're going to make a quinoa salad, and then we're also going to make a fruit pizza. It's a whole wheat pita with apple butter and some fresh fruit, cinnamon, so you get some antioxidants there, and then we'll have like just a drizzle of vanilla yogurt on top of that. So moderation, it's healthy, but it's not that. It still has a lot of sugar. So we do have some recipes if you want those at the end as well. So we'll have some to take with you. So you don't need to write them down. And we're gonna put Bern to it. She's, like I said, she's gonna be the sous chef today. For those of you who don't know what a sous chef is, a sous means second chef, and it's still the same as when I was coming up. What that means is you do all the stuff the chef doesn't want to do.
Now, Lance said, "Are you comfortable with the knife?" And I said, "Are you comfortable with me having the knife?" That's the question.
You can see that the two cutting boards are a good 2 arms lengths away from each other. So. All right, so I've got some recipes already set up, and we'll get these put together.
And then real quick, if we don't have enough recipes, I have some printed off. If we don't have enough, I can get with you after the class. I give you my email address, and I can certainly email them to you, or you can send me your email address, and I'll leave it.
I'm just pulling out what I need here. We'll go ahead and get started with the black bean. veggie burger. So real simple. You'll be able to see, if you can't see from up there, how few ingredients there are in there. 1 egg. Eggs are one of those things that gets a really bad rap, right? Everyone thinks it makes your cholesterol go crazy, but most of the newer studies are saying that's really not the case, right? So we'll go ahead and get you started here. You can go ahead and I'm going to use, let me see if I want to make sure I get the exact amounts here for the onion on this one. We're only going to need about a quarter of that onion. So if you want to, so very careful, there we go.
Oh, it's a sharp.
I do patch at least a couple of people up a week. So.
Okay.
Flat side. I'm going to teach you some life skills.
Very good.
They flatten that out now, it's a little bit safer, right? It doesn't roll as much. You just cut that through the center. All right, I think that's going to be enough. So why don't we just take the skin off of that?
Okay.
As long as you show her how to hold her non-cutting hand.
She's got these really nicely manicured nails. Let me show you this quick technique.
Okay. Good
So
idea.
how we hold a knife? We hold it by the blade with our index finger and our thumb, with our other 3 fingers wrapped around it. Let me get that down so you can see. That way, that blade is like an extension of our arm. We got really good control of it. Our offhand, we're going to use what we call a claw grip. So we have all of our fingers bent back. So I usually just use this finger, which is evident from the Band-Aid I have on there right now. Every once in a while you will still nick yourself. So you keep those curled back and you keep that blade against the knife. That way, as we use this hand to determine where we're cutting, and we're safe. If everything is curled back and away from there, you might shave a little finger there if you're not real careful, but you're not going to cut yourself. This is unsafe. That's how you can sort of take off. So you have everything bent back, and then what we can do with this, we're going to go in the food processor with it, so we can just really quickly cut it into just a couple manageable pieces like that. Okay. Makes sense?
Makes sense.
Easy. We're just going to throw this in the food processor along with garlic.
Okay. Toss it all in.
Just pitch it right in there. And once you just cut about 2 little pieces off of that, not too much, you just toss them right in there. That's probably enough.
Good.
Just throw that green pepper in there. All right, now let me show you how we use this. This is a Robo food processor. We just want this to get ground up pretty well, so we're just going to turn it on and it has to be locked.
How much do one of these cost?
$450, $500. This is a cheaper one. Lower. This is a lower. It's a commercial, but not. The ones upstairs are thousands of dollars. We have one of these for each station up here. So we're just going to take this, put it off the side for just a second. Now we're going to take our beans. Are you going to put here so you can see it? Go ahead and mash those up. We got a potato or beef masher there. It's never as easy as it looks.
Especially when you have everybody watching.
Especially when people are they're not judging you on this.
No.
I'm just going to go ahead and throw in our chili sauce there. We have our spices. When you're dealing with like black bean burgers, this sort of thing, spices and this sort of thing is always really critical. These don't really add any calories, right? You put as much cumin, coriander, chili powder, and you can take this and make it with a white bean and make use Italian herbs. You can disguise a little bit. So you make it taste however you want it to taste. This is sort of more of a southwestern style. It feeds along with the other items that we're doing.
How many of you find time to cook every night? Not every night, but a lot. Well, you're lucky you're not part of my family because I cook something on Sunday and we eat it like for 4 days. Because I have no time once I get home.
And that's common with a lot of people. Something like this, you can make a 5 times this amount batch. You can make whatever size veggie burgers you want. You can freeze them. Just throw them in the freezer. If you do it on Sunday, you can make enough for the month if you're gonna have once a week or whatever. So let me jump back to real quick. We're gonna put breadcrumbs in, and we're gonna grab the egg that I have somehow misplaced. And that's really all there is to it. Some people might want more egg, less egg, depending on, that's what's going to bind it together. There's a lot of recipes you get online and look around. A lot of people will add like a brown rice or a barley to this. There's, like I said, there's so many things you can do. You go out and buy these Boca burgers or Morningstar burgers, and they're like $4 or $5 for 4 of them. And they're like, what, an eighth a pound, about a quarter pound each. It's very expensive. You can make about 6 or 8 burgers out of a can of black beans. Think about that. A can of black beans is 59 cents.
Could you mash up the black beans in the process?
No, that's why she's using that. You could, you could sort of pulse it in there. She just said she wanted to work, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I
Burn up some calories.
So we decided to do it this way. Let me go ahead and grab those there. So yeah, you see like I grabbed this because this is something you have at home, right? If it's a potato or a meat masher, for those days you don't want to do all the other stuff. Then you can get this as coarse or not as you like. And all we need to do, there's a couple ways we can do this. We can either pat him up on our own, or we can lay them out. You can see how much this is. This is like a 1-can recipe. That's a lot of veggie burger right there, okay? I mean, everything in here is super inexpensive. There's nothing that's unhealthy in there. I mean, you're going to make 6 veggie burgers out of 1 egg. Okay, so what we can do, we can just get that to the size that you want, and then we're doing a little slider burger, right? Like a little appetizer size one. So I'm not going to be able to cook this because it needs to set up. These have to go in the cooler and set up for a minute. But what you can grab is you can use a coffee cup or something. But we just have like a little cutter here. And I just cut that out just to show you, so you can see it up there. You just have yourself a little slider burger like that. You can throw that around and go. I'm going to put this in the cooler right now, and I'm hopeful that it'll set up in the next 10 minutes, and we'll be able to. I have the grill on it, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. And we'll see if we can use that. All right, so that's pretty simple, right? And what we're going to have with that is a pico de gallo. It's a lot of night work.
It is a lot of night work. It is.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna take like half, you can take that.
Okay, got it.
So we'll do it that way.
Sounds good.
What we're gonna do, pico de gallo, everyone here familiar with it? Pico de gallo, if you throw it in that blender, it's salsa, right? Pico de gallo is sort of the relish form of the same thing. Tomatoes, jalapenos, cilantro, garlic, onion. We're not gonna use that in this blender. We're gonna use it rather than just so it's pretty, and fresh lime juice. So real simple to do. What I'm going to have you do is use those same life skills we just talked about. I'm going to have you dice these onions. Just go. What you want to do is not cut all the way through. If you're dicing an onion, you want to follow these natural lines, okay, and then bring it back this way to dice it. But what you're going to do, I'm going to go this way because I can see that's the root end. I'm just going to cut this about 8/10 of the way. So I'm going to cut it almost all the way through, okay? And these are, you might want to be a little smaller if you go to gallo with it. Okay? And then when I turn it, when I come back to dice it, it's not going to fall apart on me. Okay? So that's just a way to do that. And some people will cut it this way, but you really don't need to. I mean, it's going to fall apart into a pretty small size dicer. So I want you to do that with that. And then I want you to cut both of these lines in half and squeeze them. We're going to do all this into this bowl. Put it right in there when you're done. And I will cut the tomatoes and jalapenos while you do that.
Sounds good.
All right.
So how much protein is in the veggie burgers?
How much
Black
protein
beans.
is in it?
Yes.
That's a good question. There's 6 to 2 cups of black beans. I have that's a lot of protein. If you were to eat what we have now, you have enough protein for the day. The quinoa has that note is the only grain that there is a complete protein. So if you get a black bean, you want to eat it with rice, and you have that complete protein, right? That's almost what you eat beans and rice and get all the proteins that you need.
So can you talk about olive oil versus canola oil versus regular corn oil plants?
Right. Yeah, so olive oil is much healthier. You know, especially the extra virgin. The extra virgin comes off of what's the first pressing of the olive. So that's why there's that more green, vibrant. I caution myself a little bit now, because I just saw and read a report about the imports on oil, where they had tested some honeys and oils that came from China, and they had olive oil that was only about 15% olive oil. They said it was 100%, and some honey that was like 90% corn syrup, I think it was. So you be careful on some things where you get them. I will say one thing about that. There's been a whole lot of studies now on organic, and you know the government has released several studies. We're going to use one jalapenos, a lot of jalapenos. I'd recommend wearing gloves if you're doing like jalapenos, because you might scratch your eye earlier or later. I mean, regret it a little bit, pull these seeds out. But anyway, on the organic thing, I think, you know, if you want to go organic, by the best way to do it is out of your own garden. And keep in mind too that there's a lot of, there can be some potential safety things with organic, you know, because they're not regulated. They don't sanitize the soil the same way. They just had I've seen several reports. I saw one last night on the evening news that over 50% of all food illnesses in the United States come from produce. Most people think of eggs and poultry, salmonella. Most of it comes from produce because people just don't take the time to wash it properly. We didn't wash these before we started, so I think it's great to eat organic and such, but they've done a couple of studies that, you know, there's no nutritional value difference at all. So like the tomatoes, this Roma tomato versus an organic, the nutritional breakdown is exactly the same. There's not going to be a difference. You know, it's nice to support local.
So Lance, are you going to grade me when I'm done?
You're finished?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now you can chop the cilantro, right?
She asked if you were.
Are you going to grade me?
I'm just going to try to keep up, I guess, right?
What do I do with?
Okay.
I've never used cilantro.
So we get a lot of
ever.
we get a lot of questions about herbs. So with some of these more leafier greens, it's like parsley. The stems on the cilantro aren't really offensive. Like say rosemary is like eating a tree branch, right? Have you ever seen the raw rosemary at the time? So usually what I do is just sort of pull them off at the top. That's going to be plenty right there. So and then I'll save this for later, but we can make vegetable stocks, things like that, you know, later with this. We can grind this down into other things. So, you know what spice comes from this, right? So cilantro and coriander is the same plant. You see it in we get these sometimes in a micro herb, and what it'll be is it'll be one leaf, and then the little cilantro seed will be on top. That's the seed that came off the coriander.
So do you want me to just?
Yeah, I want to show you this. So how we do, let's do, so how we're going to chop herbs is we're going to do like this 180-degree motion. We're going to have the blade in the fixed spot here. We're going to have our hand above it, thumb and forefinger here. That way we're safe. You know, it's always about safety when you're using a knife like this. You know, one wrong move like this, especially when you do this all the time, can be, you know, it can be pretty significant. So we're just going to go kind of roughly get through it. And then all we're going to do is sort of keep our power together and just keep going back and forth until we get a nice coarse chop where we want it to be. All right? So you can sort of finish that up. There's no right or wrong size. It's like people always want to know, like garlic, how much you can mince out. So this depends on you, because some people find garlic very rough on the system if it's in a bigger form, and some people love it raw.
So Lance, I met with somebody from Juice Plus yesterday. Have you ever heard of Juice Plus?
I have not.
Have any of you ever heard of Juice Plus? So they have a lot of research behind this product, which is really cool, and shows cancer prevention, decreases inflammation, all that kind of stuff. But the folks I met with said, now we're supposed to get 7 to 13 servings of So not just 5, and I will tell you, most people are lucky if they get 2 or 3 a day. So have you heard that? 7 to 13?
Yeah, a lot of we have most of the juice we carry upstairs. It's equal to about 4 or 5. There's quite a few all natural juice drinks out there. We carry one here. I can't remember the name of it.
Simply juice.
Simply juice, yeah. And I have a juicer at home now. I juice sometimes for myself. I don't know if anyone's ever, somebody maybe has seen that. Was that really popular documentary that was out last year? Fat, Sick, and Almost Dead. You ever seen that? It's all about juicing. This guy he lives off of just juice for I think it was 6 months or a year. You know, lost a ton of weight. But the thing with juice is, to kind of go back to the nutrition part, is when you're drinking juices, especially natural juices, they have all the micronutrients that your body needs. So if you have fat stored up on you, your body's going to consume that, and you still have the micronutrients you need to live on. So every vitamin, every nutrient is in all, kale and all the vitamins, A's and K's and things like that are in there. You get from that. I don't know that I'd recommend that. And I think, to me, I think what Brun said earlier is right on. You just eat a little bit less. Most of these diet industries, they don't want you to understand, how many calories you should have a day. It's real easy to figure out. All you need to do is figure out what your basal metabolic rate is, and what that is that's how many calories you need a day to wake up, open your eyes, blink, and that's it. And then you figure in on what sort of lifestyle you have. If you walk 5 miles a day, you add an X amount of calories for that. And you can figure out exactly how many calories you need, and you go from there. And then you just track your calories every day. You don't need somebody to tell you how many points you can have or that sort of thing. Not that that's not helpful, but that's basically all that they're doing. So if you can educate yourself on how many calories you need, well, you're going to be a lot better off. I've worked with a lot of registered dietitians and things when I was in healthcare, and they all say the same thing. If you want to lose weight, probably the 2 people you talk to are a dietitian and a psychiatrist, right? Because it's usually in your head. I want to eat, I want to eat more. So, all right, we all set now?
We're all set.
I'm dragging behind the burn here.
I do everything fast.
So we have I'm not putting any salt and pepper in here. I have some up here, but I'm just not going to because you can kind of do what you want.
Well, and salt is the #1 cause of high blood pressure in this country. I mean, it is really, people don't realize, but all those frozen meals that you get when you look at the sodium content in it, huge. I have patients, I'm a nurse practitioner, who literally, once they got off of all those frozen dinners, their blood pressure would come down to normal again because that's how much sodium that we have in our food content.
Yeah, it's a really sad situation, but most of these diet companies and things are, they're businesses, right? First and foremost, they're businesses. The government will not endorse any. Think about every weight loss program out there. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to offend anyone or anyone that's been on any or whatever. But the government will not accept that any of them work. So if you read their studies, their most successful one has a failure rate of like 89%, 91%. That's the most successful one. So you really have to teach yourself how to eat and how to think and all that sort of thing. So there we just have our pico de gallos, real simple. All right. So we have our black bean burger, our pico de gallo.
They were so kind, they let me pick out what we were making and eating today. So if you don't like it, don't blame Lance, blame me.
I am the one that gave her like the 6 things to choose from. So this one's going to be really simple. This is a quinoa salad. And this is going to be more, one thing that we do, try to wear gloves, anytime when we're working at Ohio State, anytime we're working with what we call ready-to-eat food, which means they're going to consume it after we're not going to cook it after that process, we're going to wear a barrier on our hands. We're going to use a quaternary sanitizer to always sanitize where we're working, sanitize our knife, just to be safe. A lot of big part of the job in food service is safety now, and that's one of the reasons why you get more food, more most olive produce, because the handling of meats and things is just everyone knows what they're doing on that. So we have the quinoa here. We've already cooked it. Didn't want to go through that process, but it's much like a rice. It's going to be 2 parts of your water or stock. Now we did use chicken stock to make this because I'm not going to use salt and things, and it's going to give it a little bit more flavor. You can use a low sodium stock. You can use veggie stock if you're a vegetarian. You can use water if you just don't want it, but it's going to be 2 parts liquid to 1 part grain, just like rice. Okay, so 2 cups of water or stock, 1 cup of quinoa. Quinoa. The only thing I don't like about quinoa is that it's so popular now. It's gotten really expensive. It's like a little 4-ounce box. It's like $7. It's crazy. It used to be you could buy the scoopfuls out of the barrels at the health food store for nothing, and now that everyone's caught on to it. But it's a great grain. Like I said, it's the only grain in the world that is a complete protein. So this is, you can eat this like you get a steak, you get protein. There's like 14 grams of fiber in a serving of it, tons of fiber. And what fiber does for you, and one of the reasons people talk about doing the whole grains a lot more now, what I do at home is I actually buy whole red and hard white wheat, and I grind it. I bought a wheat mill and I grind it myself. So it's whole grain. It's as whole grain as you can be. But stick with the whole grains and the fiber, the things that are hitting the fiber. And what the fiber does is in your system, when you eat food, you have these little fingers that pull out the nutrients and things like that. The fiber comes through after the nutrients are pulled out from your body, and the fiber acts like a broom. It really cleans you out. It helps regulate your digestive system. That's why it's so important to have fiber. You know, if you've got a gluten intolerance, you can eat quinoa. You can't eat barley, wheat, things like that. And that's a big common thing now too. One thing of caution on that is there's really a big difference between an allergy, okay, and an intolerance. People that are allergic have severe reactions every time they consume a product. People that have an intolerance may not. You may be able to eat wheat 4 times and on the 5th you get a little upset stomach sort of thing. So keep that in mind. If you have something like celiac, it's really important that the gluten intolerance, because what that does is that actually eats those little fingers up, and eventually you lose the ability to absorb nutrients like you need to. Okay, so the quinoa, we have some corn. I like to do a salad with this to show you guys because this is the same as the burger. What do you want in there? The sky's the limit. And we put avocados. We have an avocado for our burger. We're not going to put it in there, but a lot of good fats and omega-3s in there. We have.
Lance, can you talk about wheat? Because people are just going on and on about we're going to eliminate wheat from our diet. I hear people say they've lost a lot of weight by eliminating wheat. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be like, the first thing you said is moderation. How many calories do you need? If you need 2,000 calories a day, you eat 2,000 calories worth of Twinkies a day, you're going to lose weight. It's not going to be that healthy for you, but it's about how many calories you take. So you want to have good calories. The thing with wheat is it's just become this really popular thing like the Atkins diet was, right? We're always going to have protein. Well, everyone knows that bodybuilders eat nothing but protein and like asparagus for 6 weeks leading up to a contest. They shred weight, they get ripped and everything. And then, I've worked with a couple. I worked with a gentleman that was world record holder in a 308-pound weight class. And what these guys do when they get done with that is in about 3 or 4 days, they gain about 40 or 50 pounds. And in a weekend, they'll gain that much weight back because that's how bad it is for your body. So you want to work on something that's sustainable, right? Cutting something totally out is really not sustainable. Now, if you can't have gluten, that's fine. You can have rice, you can have other carbohydrates. So I would just, if you go to a holistic person who practices that, they're not going to tell you you're allergic to gluten. They're going to tell you you have an intolerance because they don't want to get sued. But it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have it. You need to eat items and keep notes. Hey, how did that affect me? I think I'm allergic to lactose. Okay, we're going to drink milk and see what happens. So I think you need to sort of, if you had celiac disease, which means you can't have gluten, you would know about it. It's like if you had a peanut allergy, right? You're going to know that you can't have a peanut or a tree nut. It's not going to be something that's going to be questionable. So, there's all sorts of allergies out there, and they are getting a lot more common. But unless you know from someone you really trust, I would make sure that you don't just give up something you like because of it. And we work with someone that has celiac that it's a rough thing, you know. And like I said, you're going to know if you have it or someone has it, because they really have issues, you know, when they eat it, pretty severe. It's not just a, you know, cutting out wheat to lose weight. You know, 60% of your diet should be carbohydrates, right? And just so you know too, like your body's a machine, and your body doesn't know the difference. Any carbohydrate you eat, rice, barley, wheat, sugar, your body turns all of that into glucose in your body. That's your body's a machine. It turns every carbohydrate you eat into glucose, which is sugar. So whether you eat table sugar or bread, the grams of carbohydrates are the same. If you eat a piece of whole grain, whole wheat bread, it's going to fill you more, which is why it's better to eat that. And when a teaspoon of table sugar would be the same. So that's how you want to look at it. It's not, you know, your body. That's why I say you got to talk to a psychiatrist, because it's your brain that says, "Boy, that cake's really good." You know, it's not. Your body just wants a. If you want to do a little experiment at home, take a piece of bread by itself and eat it, and just chew on it, keep it in your mouth, and you'll be able to taste how sweet it is. It'll turn into sugar, literally, and you can taste that. You know, people that cut out sugars out of their diet can eat something like a sweet potato and it tastes like cake to them because they haven't had that sugar in their diet. So, you know, when you sort of let some of those things go, that's what you'll get. All right, we're going to finish this off, and then we're going to do our fruit pizza. We're going to do the fruit pizza.
Has any of you ever gotten pepper burns? Anybody heard of that? When I was a kid, I grew up in a small coal mining town in southwestern Pennsylvania. And so my family really loved like hot sausage, hot beans. So they would get these really hot peppers like this. And I remember cutting them up, and one day I didn't put gloves or anything on. And I literally had pepper burns. I slept with my hands in the ice all night because that's how burned I was from hot peppers.
You can get some severe burns. We had one of our guys brought in some ghost chilies the other day. One day trying on them as ghost chilies. It's about at least 1,000 times hotter than a jalapeno, and then it can literally just burn inside your mouth. So what I've done here is I flipped this cutting board over because I just got jalapenos on there and onions and things. So we're going to be working with some. We put another pair of gloves on. We can't go all so healthy that we don't enjoy life. So this is still pretty healthy though. We got some strawberries. Actually, I already have some cut, so I think we'll just go with those. Cinnamon, which has a lot of good antioxidants. Once again, I just read a study that antioxidants, too much antioxidants can cause cancer. Like 3 days ago. So moderation. I mean, you know, I couldn't make this stuff up. I tried everything. It seems like every time I pick up a publication in nutrition, there's something different. So, you know.
Well, we went through that with wine.
Right.
You know, it's not good, and it is good for your heart. And chocolate. Chocolate's fine if it has a ton of cocoa in it. And if you just eat a little bit, it is great cardiovascular wise. So
Everybody likes chocolate.
I
I hope so. But just don't eat a lot of it. I mean, I had a friend that had lost a lot of weight, and I was sort of talking to her, and she said, "Look, I love chocolate, so she keeps Hershey Kisses. She'll have like 8 kids. You know, you just have to be disciplined. I mean, it's not easy. When she gets, you know, for her, it's enough. So what we have here, we got some whole grain pitas, okay? And then the starters we're going to have today will be on a whole wheat bun as well. So just, you know, you might as well have the whole wheat rice instead of the white rice, you know. It's the same product, it's just they don't take that outer hull off, you know, so you get the grains. And what we're going to do here, let's see if I have a little spatula for you. There you go. We'll pour a little bit of this, or we'll just spread it around. This is apple butter, okay? Everybody likes apple butter, right? And like I said, this is not, you know, there's certainly a decent amount of sugar in this dish, but it's much better sugar, right? Eating fruit is much better sugar than eating refined table sugar. So we eat a lot of processed things in this country, and that's, you know, so the apple butter is going to give us a nice little bit of flavor.
I think you guys will really like this one, so more. Okay, so we're gonna just, I'm missing my hat. Okay, you can hear me? It's not a big deal. We're not going to eat this anyway, so you'll see the ones we do. It should have green apples. We have just put a pinwheel of apples around it. That's the base of it. And then we're going to do strawberries and the kiwi. Granny Smith apples, the green apples, have less sugar content, so they're better to use for this sort of thing. Most people don't, but they're fine to use. We're just going to sort of put these on.
Lance is a great teacher, isn't he?
So I'm just going to do one little side here, but you're just going to cut that into little small, like half moon sort of pieces. I'd recommend too, like if you like to cook and things, learn how to cook that night. Check out some YouTube videos. It's better to go slow and do it right, because eventually you'll get faster. If you do it wrong all the time, you'll never get faster. You'll cut the same you do now forever. Because the back of your brain is probably telling you, don't go too fast, you're going to cut yourself. So just do the ones that we have that you're going to get are much fancier, because Megan spent a lot of time making them very pretty for you guys. So I don't have as much patience. I have patience for certain things, just not really in real apples. So let's do one more.
So Lance, how did you get interested in this field?
In cooking, well, like a lot of people do, probably most people I know by accident. I went to college because that's where I figured I needed to go when I got out of high school, and started working at a hotel and was washing dishes, and somebody got mad and quit, and they said, hey, come help us. I did that for a little while. I thought, this is all right. I don't have to sit behind a desk all day. Every day's a little bit different. Today's different. We have you guys here. We do different things like this all through the week, so it's a lot of fun. So we're just going to put our products on there. Last thing's a kiwi.
So how many calories in one of these?
In the whole thing, I'd say in the whole thing, probably, that pita, because it's wheat, whether it's whole wheat or white, some pita that size is probably in the neighborhood of 200 calories, right? Like a big tortilla that you get a wrap in, they're about a couple hundred calories. The apples and kiwi and strawberry, calorie-wise, pretty negligible. They're probably in the 20, 30 calories, 40 calories. It's like spinach, some of those greens have like no whole big patch of have nothing. And then the apple butter is probably where you're going to get it from. That much apple butter is probably about 2 ounces of apple butter. So it's 2 ounces of jam of apple butter. I'd guess about 160 calories maybe.
So almost 400 pounds.
Yeah. The whole thing is probably good for it. But, we're going to cut it back here for you guys into 6 pieces. Okay, so see, you have 1 or 2 pieces. It's like regular pizza, right? I love pizza, but I can't eat pizza. Probably what I should eat. I was eating way more than I should. So that's it. And then what you do with this, we'll just do one for show, right? So that's it. You can take that, you put it in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, just to let the fruit cook down just a little bit, and that's it. Then what we do is we have a squirt bottle in the back. We just put vanilla yogurt in it and just give it a little zigzag just to make it look pretty. It gives it just another nice little bit of flavor. Oh, the one thing I did forget though is the cinnamon, and that's that's just a to-taste thing, like sort of salt and pepper. What do you like? I could put quite a bit of cinnamon on it myself. But I guess now that it causes cancer, we're going to ship it to me. So there you go. A little cinnamon on top, and then we'll just throw it in the oven. I have the oven turned way down on here because our ovens here, they cook really, really fast. They're not like the ones you have at home.
So how long do you put it?
I just put it about 10 minutes, and then what we'll do is like what we've done for the ones you're going to eat, we'll let that come down to room temperature and serve it like that. So this is something great you can put on a tray if you have friends over. Great healthy thing. All of this stuff is like the quinoa salad.
you can take that quinoa and make it like a meal, right? You can put whatever you want in it. If you like black beans and corn, or an Italian spin on it, or you can put a protein like a meat in it if you want. You can treat it like a pilaf, so you can put other vegetables. You can have it as a side, or you can have it as a meal. You can have like a cup serving. You can even turn it into like a breakfast sort of, maybe you want sweet up and things like that, brown sugar or whatever. So, maybe some blueberries, bananas, just a little bit of sugar. But that's why I like showing that, because there's so many things you can do with quinoa. It's like, the other rice, like wild rice is really helping for you because it has so much fiber in it too. So let's check that veggie burger out and let's just see if that's it's good enough. It's much firmer now. You can see. You're not gonna be able to see this, but I'll just cook it on the grill for a minute. And the only thing in there that's potentially hazardous is the egg. So you just want to make sure you keep that internal temperature up to like 155 degrees per day. All right. So as most people eat a runny egg. It doesn't make you sick. We have guidelines like here we have to follow and things like that. That's why you'll see when you go out to a restaurant, eating raw or undercooked meat, seafood, and eggs may cause food poisoning. You guys have all seen that when you go out to eat regularly. That's why it's on there, because it's still going to let it be up to you. And as long as you're not in a high risk group, so high risk would be elderly, young children, pregnant women, nursing people, or people with immune deficiency diseases. So if you're not in one of those categories, you'll sort of build up. Some people can eat runny eggs all the time. It doesn't bother them. If you don't eat them all the time, you eat when it could upset your stomach. But yeah, most of the food around us is very interesting. It's coming from produce. There's the state has just put a new regulation in on safety for produce, and it hasn't. I'm sorry, the FDA. So it will hit the state within like the next year or two. It hasn't hit here yet. So it's something you won't see or have to deal with. The chefs and people that work with produce will not be responsible to actually take the temperature of things like shredded lettuces and things. So, but anything that has a lot of moisture, think about it like that, will have a higher degree of food poisoning potentially. That's why your bean sprouts and things have a lot of problems with it, because of the moisture gets in there. So, does anyone have any questions at all? Let's walk around. You guys can hear, but we can't hear anything back there. There's some pressure lids up here. So, okay. Well, I can tell you that even when stuff is in season, most of the stuff grown in this country when it's in season comes from California. Now you will get some local produce, Ohio stuff. Every chef in the world wants to use local, but it's just not very feasible because someone that has a hog farm here in Ohio, they couldn't keep up with the needs and demands for Ohio State, another state. And why that is because when you sell produce or animal, you have to sell all of it. The hog farmer doesn't start to make money off of that hog until he's selling the brains and the eyes to some third world country somewhere. That's a reality. They don't make any money off of the primers. In produce, California, it's all picked green. It's not picked right, and it doesn't come here right like that. Produce companies in Columbus still have ripening rooms. I can call them up today and say, I want green bananas, I want green bananas, I want speckled bananas, and they have them all through the process because that's how they have ripening rooms. So I'm not sure. I mean, I know that if you pick it off the vine, you're going to have a little bit more of that micronutrients in there. So, but when it's out of season, what you're getting, because it's always in season somewhere with the global economy, it's coming from South America, Guatemala, Mexico. That's where it's coming from, and they're following the same procedures. Most of it now, not most, like half of it is grown indoors. So that's the next thing now, because we're already to the point where we maximize our farmland. So what's happening now is people are finding new ways to grow more product in the same amount of land. So a lot of people don't want to engineer, do this or that with produce. If we don't, at some point, unless there's some kind of catastrophe that wipes out people, we would cease to exist at some point.
there's only so much land, so you have to do, we were up at the Chef's Garden up in Ohio where we have a few acres inside and they grow from. It's amazing what they do. This state-of-the-art facility, they got a grant from Ohio State, and they burn corn cobs. It's one of the things they use for biofuel to heat it, and then they don't do any watering from above because of the potential risk. So everything is watered from under the ground just to the roots. So there's a lot of things that are happening with that. They're going to make it safer. And I talked to him about organics. They do what they can, but he just said, look, there are so many things that just aren't safe to do organic. And they are the biggest seller of the specialty greens to your really high-end restaurants. They sell a lot of microgreens, which are just little. They once that sprout comes up, they'll pull that little. They have someone goes in with scissors and cuts it, and you'll be getting cilantro, but it doesn't look like cilantro. So that's the effect that the chefs want to use with the food. But there is so much of that. He was telling me that one of his seasonal workers from Mexico was telling him that they had a 78-acre greenhouse that they're placing over there. So you're talking about 100 acres under a greenhouse. In a lot of places, that's what they're using for safety reasons. So I can tell you that the regulations are pretty safe. I had a friend that owned an organic farm in Virginia, and he told me and I don't know, there's not as much regulation on the produce as there is in meats because of the safety, and handling. But he told me, he said, at his organic farm, we got inspected when we wanted to open it for them to check to make sure it was organic, and he said they never came back. Everything else was okay. So, they all had insurance, so I can tell you that. So they have that. So like Ohio State's not going to use someone that pulls up and stuff in the back of a truck. We're going to use an insured places that get inspected, that farm the right way. So, there's always something. There's trade-offs with everything, but I wouldn't be afraid of anything that we're producing here. It's just not, despite the food illness we have, most of the food illness we have in this country are from cross-contamination. Somebody's sick and they touch something. It's not from the food itself. So, you have a question?
Yes. You put that in a fire underneath?
Right.
Yes.
So we have a chart. Yeah, there's a fire underneath this chart grill. I should flip the bird.
To answer your question, there's a griddle up here, which is like a flat top griddle that you would cook eggs on. The charge is like almost like an outdoor grill. The charge of the grill. Yeah, it's like an outdoor grill almost.
I was just wondering if we really could grill those outside.
Yeah, absolutely, you can grill them on your own grill out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. In a skillet, you get a little bit of that smoky flavor on there. It's always going to be better if you do it over some sort of wood or something like that. The difference between a grill and a broiler is a grill comes from the bottom and a broiler comes from the top. That's the biggest. If you ever seen a broiler grill, that's the difference. Real similar, dry heat cooking method, same thing. So. Any other questions? Egg white's fine. Anything you can get to bind it together. You want to take more fat out of it that way. So the only thing I caution with that is, like I said, with moderation, you still need some fat. You don't want to cut out like all of them, but if you're trying to watch cholesterol, you want to get rid of it. There's no cholesterol in the whites, right? And the whites just the yolks.
Vegan fiber you can use?
Vegan binder. That's a good one. Maybe like a veggie stock, maybe rice. We made a vegan one once, so we used rice. Because rice will stick, and you use sticky rice. It'll give it that sticky effect. So, that'll probably be the best bet.
Quinoa, how do you prepare it? I know you get it already fixed, but how do you prepare it so that it doesn't taste like it's so deep?
Well, you should rinse it like Indian ring before you do it, but I like to use stalks. Anytime I do something, I use a stalk, even if I use a low sodium stalk, because I just think it gives a flavor. The biggest thing that I get from people is, well, how did you do that? That really tastes good. And I'd say, well, moderation, Alfredo sauce, I didn't make it with milk, I made it with cream. I'm not going to eat it every day, Or, like you're saying, something like that, how much calories is it going to give you to make a rice with even a vegetable, like you're vegan, use a vegetable stock, or a chicken stock. It's just going to give it so much more flavor. But, you can rinse it and just use the water or salted water. But the way, it's all what you're putting into it too. You're putting jalapenos in there. You're going to have a little bit of more bite than that. So quinoa will take on the flavors of whatever you're putting.
I make some chicken dishes. Today you have garlic where you put in the recipe. Some say they call it a rinse curve, some for crest curve. I mean, how different is that process?
That's what I was talking about, so it depends on how you like it, right? Some people, I know people that will just slice the garlic really thin, and that's how they like it. Or some people want it like minced to the point, like in a food process where it's like a paste. If that heavy garlic taste bothers you, something else you can use, put it in foil, wrap it up, and throw it in the oven and roast it. And then you can really spread it like butter if you cook it, right? You cook it slow and it'll just turn into like, you can almost spread it across the toast. And that'll still give you some garlic flavor, but not nearly as intense. It's like cooking an onion, like cooking that out. And some people just have difficulty. So you gotta know your body. Some people have difficulty, maybe get some indigestion or gas, they eat onions or whatever, beans and that sort of thing. I think one thing people find is that if you introduce things to your diet, if you stick with them for a while, especially if they're healthy things, eventually your body sorts it out. Your body's a pretty amazing machine we have, and it'll figure things out. There's people all around the world that live on all sorts of different diets that works for them. We might, maybe when I was telling about our sister, she did an internship up in Alaska, and she was telling me about some of the diets. People been smoking 200 pounds of fish in the winter for 1,000 years over there, and they still do it. They're still living 80 or whatever. So, any other questions? I'll be here mingling around, so do you have anything else, Brian?
Well, I just wanted to tell folks we have this new Wellness Innovative Program throughout the university. So we're trying to build critical masses of people within each of the colleges and units that are working with Megan and Maya and myself to really create cultures and an ecosystem, an environment that makes it easy and fun for people to engage in healthier behaviors. So if you would like to learn more about what's that Wellness Innovator Program about, please call me, email me, or get in contact with Megan, and we'll be happy to tell you what that's all about. We put 105 people through that program a couple of weeks ago, which is fantastic. And everybody who's a wellness innovator, if they want to, will go through this new 2-day health athlete program. So we've developed a partnership with Johnson & Johnson Corporation. They have a wellness company called the Human Performance Institute in Florida. And 30 years ago, they started working with NFL athletes and Olympians on how do I peak my performance? How do I have good energy all throughout the day? Because how many of us sag at certain parts of the day? How to eat healthier? How to move more throughout your day? So we were so impressed. A couple of us went through that corporate athlete program because they're doing it for corporate executives all throughout the country, that we said we have to adapt that program and bring it here for faculty and staff so we can help you get healthier. So again, if you're interested in that particular program, just let us know.
There are flyers in the back too.
Oh, there are flyers in the back for that. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today. Please help me thank Lance. He did a great job.